Chivalry 2 guide, as well as games in general, by me, by myself, okay? This is going to be a guide about how you can get better at the game, how you can get those high scores. You know, you want to beef up that KD, you want to beef up them numbers, you want them numbers to be fat, you want them to be juicy, okay? You want to post them, say, look guys, my cock is massive, it's huge, it's erected, okay? Look, I'm amazing at the game. You want to do that? You want to be that guy, okay? Okay, you listen, okay? You fucking listen, because I'm that guy, okay? And I'm going to tell you how to be that guy, okay? So listen. Most important thing, it's mindset, okay? Look at Homer, right? He's taking a look at what we're going to talk about. Taking accountability. So, when you're playing, you're running around, you are playing the game, and you make a mistake, alright? You fuck up. You're an idiot, you know, you're a big fucking stupid idiot. That's why you're watching this video. You made a mistake, that's fine. That's okay. Okay, so what a lot of retards do is they baby rage, okay? They cry, my teammates, when the game sucks, I don't know, name any PowerPoint fucking slides of gay bullshit, I don't know, come up with something. They blame everybody else. You don't do that. Okay, you can get mad, that's fine. Get mad, get angry, you know, pound your fist at your wall and scream. But after that, figure out what you did wrong. Figure out what you did wrong, because when you make a mistake, if you don't learn from it, you will stay ass. You will stay ass forever, because that's what a lot of people do, is that they will blame their teammates, they will blame everybody else, they will spurg the fuck out, okay? You know, they'll yell at they'll yell at their fucking friend on comms or whatever. They'll fucking, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And they will stay shit, okay? That's like most people. Most people will stay shit. They will stay shit forever because they're fucking idiots. They're 60 IQ fucking chimpanzees who don't understand anything, okay? You know what they understand? They understand how to scream at the monitor, okay? And smash their keyboards when they do poorly. That's not you, okay? You're the GOAT. You're going to be the GOAT. So what you're going to do is you're going to take accountability. And, okay, that was my mistake, all right? And you analyze it. Okay, so what did I do wrong? And how can I improve, right? So I did this thing that was stupid. I fucked up, right? You know, like you know, sometimes you can't control everything, right? The catapult hits you, the ballista hits you, right? You get booty by, I don't know, whatever other bullshit. You get hit in the face by a warbow, by gay sex balls, like level 5, right? It sucks. It's annoying, but it happens, right? You can't prevent it. It's gonna happen sometimes. Those are not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you make the mistake. So when you make that mistake, figure out what it is and try to learn from it, right? You missed a counter, you were out of position, you did something there, because you are the common denominator. Every time you die, what's common? It's you. You are the reason you died like 90% of the time. You could have avoided that situation, you could have countered that attack, you could have been more vigilant, right? You could have paid more attention to what was going on, maybe helped your teammate, right? And then now, instead of it being a 1v3, maybe it's a 2v3, right? Because he gets eaten up by those 3 people insta-killed. You could have helped him, right? Maybe won that engagement. Whatever it is, you need to fucking analyze everything that you do in-game. Because if you don't, you literally just won't be good. You will be mid. You will be like a silver fucking 1. You'll be a silver 1 forever, okay? That's what you'll get stuck at. So, take accountability, figure out what you're doing wrong in your gameplay, and understand that you're basically always the reason that you're going to be dying, okay? Because that is like, that's like the most important thing. That's just the most important thing. All right, moving on. Stop running in like a dumb fucking ape, okay? A lot of people do this. I get it. It's fun. I love being stupid. I love being a retard. I love it. I just run in like a fucking dumb skull moron, okay? I run in and I kill myself. Guys, I'm contributing. I'm like league contributing or something. I'm 25 and 31. No, you're not, okay? You're fucking not. You're an idiot. You're a dumbass. Okay, you are being used to clip farm. You are what fucking fat motherfuckers with neckbeards, okay? They're clip farming you and they're posting you on TikTok, okay? Stop running in like a fucking idiot. You aren't contributing. You never contributed. When you do this and you run in like an idiot, all it does is feed the enemy team. You're not contributing to objective, unless you are, because there are some situations, you got those, I don't know, those big metal things, right, the ballards, I don't know what they're called, right, you take those in your hand, you run, you blow it up, you know, maybe the gate needs one last hit, that's different, okay? When you're just running around and you're playing the game, if you're running in like an idiot and repeatedly dying, you are not contributing to the game, okay? So when you're playing and you're grouping up with your teammates, you are so much more effective. So much more effective. When you run in and you get blended up by 3 fucking numbskulls, they look you like, oh, he's running at me. And then you run and you kill yourself because they just slashed you to death. Because you're a dumbass, okay? Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Stop running in like an ape. You're not going to get anything done. You're just going to kill yourself. And you're going to feed. And you are a waste of space in your game when you do that. You are literally, you're cannon fodder. Don't be that guy. Don't be, even if you suck and you love running in, okay? Learn how to position yourself. Just don't run in like a moron. Group up with your teammates, even if you suck. Even if you suck, right? Play with your team. Stop just running in, because a lot of people do that, okay? A lot of people do that. A lot of people are fucking idiots. They will just run in. Don't be one of those guys. Don't do that. This is what you look like when you do that, okay? You know the fucking Age of War game? That's you. You see these cavemen? This is 2 morons who run in, okay? They won and they trade 1 for 1. And then they talk about how good they are, okay? At the end of the game, they're like, bro, look. I got 40 kills, bro. And they have 35 deaths. Like, this is, wow. Wow, dude. That's amazing. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Stop running in and killing yourself. People don't want you as a teammate when you do that. If you are actually trying to win or do anything productive, right, other than, you know, just if you're just blowing off steam, who the fuck cares, right? It's a video game. You bought it, you have fun. But if you are trying to improve, stop doing this. Stop doing this. I watch so many people do it. It's hard to watch. It's like you're committing suicide in front of me. You're stabbing yourself to death in front of me when you do that, okay? Stop doing that. Don't do that. Okay, pick the right engagement. Okay, the right engagement is the most important. This is a very important thing when it comes to positioning, okay? When you're positioning yourself, you need to be paying attention to the groups of people that are fighting, right? Obviously, every objective is different. So let's say that we're talking, very importantly, right, about Rudhelm on attack, okay? There's 2 massive fucking towers, right? And there's 2 different fights going on each of them, right? So if you look on the left side and there is 10,000 Masons, there's this giant malignant tumor of Masons on there. Well, you could get on the cat and like destroy them, but if we're just talking walking around, right? You see those Masons, they're sitting there, they're looking at you like you are a big yummy steak, okay? Like you're a big delicious steak. You are just, you're just running right towards them, and you go and you kill yourself. And it does nothing for your team. You don't choose that engagement. You instead go over to the right? Let's say a bunch of your teammates just spawned in. You decided to go to the left, right? And it's like, oh, a bunch of them is Masons. Don't want to deal with them. Let's go to the right. And you group up with your team, and you guys take the objective. Always vie for the overmatch. Let's say that you can take part in a fight where it's going to massively throw it in your favor, right? Like, let's say it's 5v5. And you could take a fight where, you know, you're beefing up that side, right? It's going to become now 6v5, right? Take that engagement. Always take the engagement where you're already going to win it. Or if you're not going to win it, make sure that you're going to win it. Never take a losing fight. If you think you're going to lose the fight, it's a waste of your time. It is a waste of your time. Always pick the fight where you know you're going to win it, or you think you can make the difference and that you're going to win it. Once again, if you see a fight and you don't 100% think you can do either of those things, it is a waste of your time. You are a little pawn on the board. You're 1 of 32. When you're running around and you run into a fight and you die, that's 1 person down, right? And if there's another fight going on that you might have been able to contribute to, now that fight is probably lost. If not lost, then, you know, your team's getting fucked, you know, whatever other bullshit, right? Okay, let's talk about meat grinders, because they are like the most difficult thing to play around and the most difficult thing to understand, because they're just so much is going on, right? So much is going on in them. Number 1, if you can avoid them, you stay the fuck away from them, okay? Meat grinders are like shitholes. They're not a place to be. You don't want to be them. You know what a meat grinder is? It's fucking India, okay? You don't want to be in India. Nobody does, bro. Not even Indians. You stay the fuck away from them. They're like big trash heaps because when you throw that many people together and that much countering and that much fucking slashing is going on, do you know what that means? That means you're gonna get fucking, I can't say bad words. You're gonna get destroyed. You're gonna get your butthole eviscerated, okay? You're gonna get your butthole eviscerated. You want to avoid them if you can. If you can avoid them, you stay away from them, right? Because they are just generally like, ugh, right? They're gross, right? They're unpredictable. They're really unpredictable. If you can't avoid them, right? Let's say we're talking about Lion Spire. We get to the bridge. You're like, Karen, what the fuck am I supposed to do? There's so many people in front of me. There's so many of these numbskull apes, and I want to touch them, okay? I want to touch them. I want to poke them into my numbers on the scoreboard. How do I do that, okay? How do I play around them? So, meat grinder play is pretty simple and straightforward. There is a lot less going on mechanically than there is positionally, right? So let's say that you're off to the side and you're counter spamming, right? You're spamming counters back and forth, trying to drain somebody's stamina. That's all mechanics, right? There's some brain games there, obviously like mental games. That's all mechanics. A meat grinder is the complete opposite. It is all positioning. It is all, mindset, awareness, all that kind of bullshit. How do I play around a meat grinder? Let's say we're on the final map that really shit. It's so shit. It's so shit, dude. It's so bad. But you're on that bridge. The worst thing to ever exist, by the way. That bridge is the fucking Battle of Normandy. Okay, it's awful. How do you play around something like that? Because it's difficult. It's hard for me. I have 400,000 million hours and it still sucks. How do I play around that? So what you do, number one, outside of avoiding them, right? When you can't avoid them, weapon choice. Weapon choice is so important in these sorts of things, all right? If you have a Morningstar, and, Morningstar is epic because you can spam heavy overhead and you can eat up like 90% of players in a 1v1 or like small engagement. That's fine. That's what it's used for. If you're trying to fight like that inside of a meat grinder, you're going to get destroyed. Do not use short weapons. Use weapons that are long. Use weapons like the heavy mace. Use weapons like the war axe. Use weapons like the two-handed hammer. Halberds, spears, you name it, you know what I'm talking about, longer weapons. If you're going to fight in a meat grinder, ideally you're running a knight and you're running long weapons, great sword, whatever else. Weapon choice, that's the first most important thing, right? Obviously everything comes after. You're not really thinking as hard about weapon choice because it's almost obvious, but I do need to mention it. Your attack patterns are very important when you're in a meat grinder. The number one thing that will get you killed in meat grinders outside of being in a position is attack combos. So obviously, Shiv's combat does not work really well when there's a million people around you because there is no indication when somebody's an active parry. If somebody's an active parry, you won't know. If you're not looking at them as soon as they get that, you won't know. You're just going to see a swing and you're like, oh, my swing's going to beat them. And then you plink off of thin air. And then you get hit once, right? And now you're in hit stun. And then you get hit by like another heavy attack. And what are you? You're a pile of meat. You're a pile of fucking Walmart hamburger meat, okay? When both of those attacks hit you at once. So attack patterns are so important. So number one, what does that mean? So that means that, let's say that we're in a fight, I'm using the battle axe, I'm using the war axe, whatever, I mean the battle axe, it's sharp, you get the idea. We're in a fight, do not just spam heavy slash, okay? A lot of bots do this, they're literal bots, right? You're like R2-D2 zooming around on the fucking bridge when you do this. Do not spam heavy attacks. The way that counters work in this game is that once you land a counter, basically for that light attack, assuming you don't drag it to like the very end, you will have essentially iframes, right? Obviously the game sucks. It's made by actual apes like this ape here. So active parry doesn't always work. You can't rely on it, right? Everybody knows this. You've played the game for 10 minutes. You know that it was coded by like actual gorillas, but like, when the game is actually functioning, right? Throw out light attack. Your goal when you're in meat grinders, if you can land a heavy attack, you can go for it, but mostly use light slash, and if not, overheads and stabs, but mostly light attacks, okay? When you're in these fights, the worst thing you can do is throw out a bunch of fucking heavies, because a lot of bots are going to do that. They're going to hold block, all right? Most of them are on console, right? Nothing against console players. Love console players, but like, controls are wonky in the game, so a lot of them are just going to spam heavy slash or just slash. Do not do that. You are going to get destroyed because when you do a heavy slash, you don't get active parry for that full heavy slash. And generally, you're going to get gambled in the middle of that fray. You're going to get screwed up. Do not do that. Focus on light attacks, right? You get a light attack with your War Axe. It's a safe way of playing. When you can take the risks, take the risks. But try to avoid spamming heavy attacks of any sort when you're in these groups. Light attacks are your best friend because when you counter something, right, and you get the iframes, you get it for that light attack. You don't get it for the heavy attack, right? You're borrowing some iframes from the banker, okay? You're not able to borrow the full amount of iframes for that heavy. You only get it for the light, so do not spam those heavies, okay? Knowing when to pull back. Knowing when to pull back is very important. So outside of like when you're in that fight, right, and you're using your attacks correctly, right? You're using those light attacks. You're making sure you have iframes throughout the fight. Knowing when to pull back is also very important. These are like there's so much going on in a meat grinder that you might lose track of your teammates, and you cannot do that. You cannot do that because they move back and forth so quickly. You've played the game before. If you've paid any attention, you can notice when it's like two teammates die, suddenly you've moved back a couple feet. You might be in some sort of fight, you're not paying attention, and you get fucked, okay? And when that happens, it's like, oh, you just get destroyed, and you might not even know why, right? You might have just died. Like, I died. You need to be paying attention to where your teammates are relative to you the entire time you're fighting in a meat grinder. That is the most important thing you can do in a meat grinder in order to be useful, is pay attention to your teammates, right? Like what we talked about earlier. You're trying to beef up your team, right? You can be the lone wolf. You can LARP as the lone wolf from like, I don't know, fucking Game of Thrones. I don't know, whatever fucking cool dude from that show. I haven't watched it, right? You're LARPing as that dude, some cool dude from there. You can do that. Just try to avoid doing that in a fucking meat grinder, because when you run into a meat grinder, it's like the Mason thing earlier. They're looking at you like a big, yummy steak, okay? And they're going to eat you alive. So don't do that. Pay attention to your teammates. Group up around them. If you're in a fight with somebody, right, you're doing what I said. You're using those light attacks, right? You're making sure you're getting active parries. You're playing somewhat safe, right? You're getting kills where you can. Making sure that, when somebody's being attacked, right, like that you're helping them, whatever else, look up from the fight. You need to look up periodically from the fight. This is a lot of things. A lot of people get tunnel visioned on one opponent or tunnel visioned on a small group that they're fighting with. You need to be looking up from that fight that you're in and looking around at your teammates at all times. This is genuinely like the most important thing. This is meat grinder play, but also a general thing. Look what's happening around you. I know the guy in front of you. He's so hot. Oh my God, he's flexing. He's got his abs out. And you're so gay, and you're staring right at him, okay? And you get fixated, and when you do that, you kind of fuck yourself, because this might be a good player, you might be a good player, you're in a long fight, eventually, the whole meat grinder is either going to kill him or it's going to kill you, right, if it's a long fight. So you need to be looking up from that fight, know when to disengage from him. Even if you think you can kill him, if it means you die, it's a waste of your time. Trading 1-for-1 with your opponents is retarded. Like, if you're like, oh, but I want the kill, Karen, I just need the kill. Don't do that. Don't be stupid. Suiciding is a waste of your time. Look up from that fight, pull back from it if you think you're gonna die. Do not get tunnel visioned. It's a dumb idea. It's just dumb. A lot of people do it. I get it, but you can't let yourself get absorbed into a fight, okay? Moving on. Okay, so let's talk about retreating, okay? Very fucking important. Very important. Just super important. So number 1, know when a fight is lost, okay? If you see you're going to lose the fight and you are probably going to die, then you are actively hurting yourself staying in it, okay? But I just want to get the kill. I'm so close. Don't do it, okay? Don't fucking do it. I know it's enticing, right? Because you look and you're like, oh my God. Wow, maybe if I just throw one more heavy slash, I can work it in. Maybe I can get away. Maybe I can... No, don't do it, dude. Don't do it. Do not just willingly kill yourself because you think you could maybe get away with something. Back up from the fight, okay? Pay attention to a fight. If the enemy team just spawned in, there's a whole group of fresh meat is coming right towards you, you fuck off, okay? Because when you stay and you try to fight that, all you're doing is feeding them now, because you're going to die. Like, you're just simply going to die. Pay attention to what's going on around you. If you're in a fight that you originally thought you were going to win and now you're starting to lose it, this is your time to back off. You back off, because staying there is just going to get you killed. Do not put yourself into a situation where you think you're going to win, you start fighting, and then, but I just need that kill, and then you get yourself killed. Don't do that. Always back off. Even if you think you can get that one extra kill, even if you think you can work something in, back off. It's unsafe. It's a waste of time, okay? Unless you want to stare at that respawn. If you're a big fan of that respawn screen, you love the respawn screen. It's beautiful, right? You get to see the person that just owns you. You get to see their fucking name, and you get to stare at it for like 15 seconds. Unless you like looking at that, you fuck off, okay? You don't stay. You always back off from fights. Healing all damage, okay? This is something that is super important. Why? Because Shiv is a really big mess of a whole bunch of things going on, right? You can get hit by all sorts of bullshit, and anytime you've had it happen, right? What it's like what I was talking about earlier. You're in a fight, suddenly you get gambled. Oh, that's a hit stun. Uh-oh. And then you get hit immediately a second later by like, I don't know, like a special attack. And what just happened? You combusted. That was 2 sound effects all at once that made basically an explosion because you died so quickly, okay? You need to back off. If you take damage, you back off because the game is unpredictable and you can die in so many ways so quickly. The best way to mitigate your death is simply healing. Simply heal. I know, you got that ADHD TikTok, man. I need constant action. I need it. No, you don't, okay? No, you don't. You will have more action time. You will have more time in fights if you spend some time out of fights healing, okay? Because the alternative to healing is spending time staring at the respawn screen, okay? Maybe you've got popcorn in your hand, you just love seeing the respawn screen, okay? But if you don't, you want to heal all damage. You can get hit by so many different random things outside of that meat grinder shit, obviously, right? Because we can talk about bows, right? Joe Schmo just loaded up the game, all right? He's 90 years old, and he's paraplegic. He has dementia as well. He doesn't even know what game he's playing after 10 seconds of logging on. But what does he have? He has a working hand to work his micropenis and the mouse. And he's going to take the mouse, he's going to grab it, and he's going to shoot you in the head with a fucking warbow. And you know what that's going to do? Like 112 damage and kill you. Probably kill you. So it doesn't matter how much fun you were having, how much good time. You're having so much of a good time. Shiv 2 is my favorite. You get hit in the head by a warbow, right? This is your favorite game, and so you get hit in the head by a warbow. And that will kill you if you're not healing. If you don't heal all damage, random bullshit will kill you more often. You've probably been in a meat grinder, and it's like, oh man, when you die in those, it's annoying. But when you get randomly hit in the head by like a bow, or even worse yet, like a Danax, because everybody knows there's a million cocks that just love the G key. They just spam the G key. They play the game like Call of Duty, right? They're just throwing stuff like a fucking nerd. They're shooting stuff at you, throwing knives, whatever other bullshit that just makes the game unfun. All that kind of shit, it will randomly hit you, and if you're not at full health, it'll hurt, right? You might have been in a fight you're about to win, and somebody cheats you with a thrown weapon, right? Because you can just randomly be cheated. You might be playing the game completely perfectly. Somebody G-keys you, right? They grab the G-key, they put their cursor on you, and suddenly you've taken 120 damage. If you're not full health, that's probably going to kill you. Because you've taken team damage, you've taken a single hit, right? You're probably around 80 health, if you're a knight. That's going to kill you. So make sure you're backing off and healing periodically, right? Because once again, you will spend more time fighting if you spend time healing than you will spend if you just going berserk, right? Because then that respawn screen, that's going to eat up a lot of your match. That could have been spent, healing. And, obviously, if you're healing, a lot less time is being spent out of the fight versus if you're just dying every couple seconds like a moron, okay? Pick the right fights. Okay, so this is more something at higher levels. If you play like standalones or clan battles or anything like that, recognize player skill. Recognize player skill. Because the worst thing that you can do is put yourself into a fight with somebody who's equal skill to you when there's like a gank going on around you, right? So like, let's say you are this goated, amazing duelist, but you're fighting a goated, amazing duelist, okay? You guys both have your sweaty cocks out and you're just fighting it out, right? You're jousting. That is a fight you can take if it's on the corner of the map. Who cares? Play your game, have your fun. But if those fights take a while, right? You've played Shiv 2. If you've played this game for any amount of time and you have any mechanical skill at all, right? If you're like a level 30 or something, right, and you don't really understand the game, when you start to understand the game, you start to counter consistently. Fighting games, as you've played them or you understand them, right, they're mistake-based. Shiv 2 is no exception. you might be locked into that fight for a while. So let's say that, you see a fight, you see a group of people, and, you see one of those really good players, right? And you understand that they're a threat, right? Be careful how you approach, and generally try to circle strafe them, right? Try to engage them as a team. Take the 1v1 if you can, but like fight them on your own terms, because if you get locked into a 60-second fight with them, right? Because obviously attack and defense, right? It's a huge thing. Let's say you're on defense. Let's say it's like Red Helm, right? And the people come out of the wall in the first objective. They're on defense, you're on attack. You go and get into a large fight with them close to their spawn. That's what they want, bro. That's what they want. Because when you do that, what's that mean? A bunch of level 5 footmen with halberds are going to spawn in, and it's going to be like seagulls eating a fucking sandwich on the beach, okay? They're just going to destroy you. So understand time limits, right? If you're fighting a good player, even if you think you can win, like what we talked about earlier, back off. Back off. Do not get yourself killed, because half the time, if you've played this game and you're good at this game, you know what I'm talking about. You're going to be in that fight with a good player, but half the time, it's, not even the good player that's killing you, or you killing the good player. It's their teammates or your teammates getting them killed or getting you killed. So you need to pay attention. Obviously armor, you find them, you see their name. Just understand the player's skill of and respect it, because once again, it's a mistake-based game. If you get locked into a fight, it's going to become less about your skill or his skill and more about whose teammates come to the aid first, right? You know how the game works. So exit plans, okay? These kind of go together. These all kind of go together, obviously, but exit plans are very, very fucking important, okay? When you're in a fight, obviously, so number one, what have we talked about? We talked about picking the right engagement. So we pick the right fight. We pick a fight that we can win. You need to have an exit plan. Maybe not necessarily every single fight, but ideally kind of have something in your head like, I can dodge backwards, I can dodge to the side, I can do something to get me away from the fight. You're paying attention, right? You're doing what I'm telling you. You see you're in a fight, you're in a fight with a really good player. You look forward, you see 50 people spawn behind him. They pop up. They like spawn out of the ground like it's Plants vs. Zombies, and you picked a pea shooter and you planted in Crazy Dave's laughing and shit, okay? That's what it's like, because they'll just pop up. Have an exit plan. If you have an exit plan, you are in a very good spot, because when you're in a fight with that player, and you know where to go in order to make yourself, safe, whatever other bullshit, then you're generally in a good spot. You want to know when that fight is proper to back off from. You want to look around you. The exit plan should kind of look like, I'm running into this fight. Is this a fight I can safely disengage from and turn around and execute on that, right? Just back off, back away, pay attention to where your team is. Try to back towards them, right? Just have a general idea of where to go if the fight turns sour, That way, if it does get fucked, if you're about to get fucked, you have some sort of idea on how to try to prevent that, right? Sometimes you can't exit. Sometimes you really do just get overwhelmed. That happens, right? But, be thinking while you're running around, if you get into a fight, like, if this goes bad, I can kind of retreat here, right? Don't put yourself into, let's say you're playing on Red Helm, and it's now, like once again, Red Helm. Red Helm's just a great map to talk about this stuff on, and you've pushed those huge gates, right? Or the huge wooden things, right? Those huge wooden towers. You jump down, a bunch of masons spawn through the doors to your sides. You need to be paying attention to, like, where can I jump to get out of this, right? Maybe jump on the ladders, pay attention, turn around, jump on top of the thing, get on the wooden cart, right, and back up. You want to just have an idea of what to do when something like that happens, because as we talked about, the game is unpredictable. People are going to spawn. People are going to come out of nowhere. So you need to understand that, like, if this goes bad, I need to go here, right? Think about it like that. Okay, so let's talk about actual gank fighting, okay? So what is gank fighting, okay? Because I use, fucking meat grinders, right? Now we're talking about gank fighting. Gank fighting is when it's like a smaller engagement. Let's say it's like a 4 versus 4, that kind of thing. That's a gank fight, okay? There's a pretty big difference between that and when it's like 15v15, right? Because when it's like 15v15, 20 versus 20, 30 versus 30, the more people there is, the more unpredictable it is, as we talked about, right? The more crazy it gets. That's when it's like a lot more positioning and mental and like correct attack patterns, right? Gank fighting is different. Obviously, all that's going to apply, but now mechanics are sort of more of what's going on, right? Because there's actual gameplay. You're not just slashing into a group of people, right? So, number one, this is the most important thing you can do. Like, so goddamn important when you're trying to handle like multiple opponents, let alone, it's like 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4. Keep people in front of you. What is the easiest way to deal with a good player? You gank him or you smack him in the back, okay? That's the easiest way because, well, number one, why is it the easiest? Because he can't defend his back, obviously, right? And anyone can do it, right? Anyone can fucking flank anybody else, right? So if somebody's behind you, you are completely defenseless. Once again, as you know. So when you're in a fight, if you see an opponent coming up, like let's say you're engaged in this 1v1, you notice an opponent coming up to your sides, coming up behind you, you need to be thinking, use spatial awareness. Spatial awareness is so important. It's the most like important skill in any game, like outside of general strategy, because mechanical skill is important, but like genuinely this is the most important. You can have no understanding of Shiv mechanically, but still be relatively okay score-wise, kill-wise, whatever else, because you have good spatial awareness, right? Paying attention where you are relative to the enemy. So if you see somebody coming up to flank you, you see whatever else, right? Make sure they're on your screen. Whoever you're fighting needs to stay on your screen. That should be a rule of yours. When you're playing the game, I want you to think what I'm saying right now. Like, literally apply this. In your games, if you're going to fight somebody, right, make sure that whatever enemies are going on in this fight are on your screen. And if not, right, dodge away. Keep people on your screen at all costs, because as soon as they get behind you, you don't know what's going to happen. You can't control that. You literally cannot control it if it's not in front of you. Obviously, you can do all sorts of ballerina spins, but that's not realistic, right? You can maybe pull those off once in a while. But the most safe way to play is to keep people in front of you, okay? Dodge repeatedly if you need to do it. Get some distance, but just keep everybody in your vision, because once again, as I've said, as soon as they get to your sides, as soon as they get behind you, as soon as they start to group up, right? That's how they're going to kill you. That's the easiest way to kill anybody who's good at the game. Just get to their sides, just get behind them, because once again, you can't defend that place. You can't defend there. So, target switch. Okay, so target switching is a very important thing to do. So what does target switching mean if you're new at the game? It's like, what does that term mean? So obviously, like, once you counter, like let's say I'm using the Messer, right? And I counter heavy mace's overhead. So the instinct, let's say we're in a 2v2, might be to try and overhead that player, right? I just countered him. Maybe I'm going to overhead him now, right? I countered his overhead. I'm going to throw it at him. That's not the right thing to do. You don't do that, because just like what we're talking about, keeping people in front of us, right? If the other person in this 2v2, right? Let's say that you're with your teammate and you countered, you countered. If that guy doesn't have you on his screen, right? He's not paying close attention. You take that counter, you target switch, you aim at him with the overhead, you overhead him. Now he's hit stunned. Now your teammate hits him, right? Because he's in hit stun. He's dead. He's turned to Swiss cheese. He's a pile of meat. He's a pile of meat at Walmart, right? You go and you take your teammate, and now the teammate helps you. You kill him, right? 2v2-1. There you go, right? That kind of thing. You want to be constantly target switching while you're fighting, because obviously, who's the one that's paying attention to you, right? When you counter their attack. The guy that just got countered, right? He's going to be paying attention for your next move. Who's not paying attention to you? Big stink balls, right? To his right. Big stink balls to his right is fighting his own fight. And when you throw that overhead counter his way, he's probably not going to expect it. He's probably not going to be paying attention, right? And you might land a kill, because as I said, it's going to combo, right? He's hit stunned, teammate hits him, he's dead. Now you kill the guy that you were originally fighting, right? So target switch. Target switching, I cannot overstate this. Do it all the time. It is the easiest way to pick up kills. Very easy to pick up kills, especially in a gank fight, right? Just counter somebody and then look at somebody else who's not necessarily paying attention to you. It's super important. Once again, especially in competitive play when you're dealing with multiple opponents, because when it's mistake-based combat, right, strategy is what's going to come into play for, like, if you're fighting like 5v5, a bunch of really good players, mechanically Yeah, you can duke it out, but generally, if you have better strategy, you're probably going to win that fight. If you're target switching, if you're circle strafing, with correct weapon choice, let's say somebody's using a Morning Star and circle strafes you, it's over, bro. It's so over, right? So that's something you need to be thinking about. Fucking target switch, okay? So let's talk about spacing as well, okay? So on top of everything else, keeping people in front of you, right? Dodging to make distance, target switching, right? When you have the opportunity to get an extra hits, space properly. So what a lot of players are going to do, and I don't blame anybody for doing this, it happens, is they're going to try to win a fight rawly on mechanics, right? Let's say you're using the heavy mace and you're fighting somebody with like the rapier, with the Morning Star. So number one, that is not a good thing to do. If you're face to face with somebody and you have the longer weapon than them, you need to be playing the range. You should be constantly, on top of everything we've talked about, trying to hit the enemy with the tip of your weapon, right? This is something that almost goes without being stated, right? But if you have a long weapon, use it being long. If you're fighting face to face with like a heavy mace, you're using it wrong. Do not fight face to face. Try to back up from somebody. Try to make sure that you're hitting them with the very tip of that weapon, because that's where you're getting the actual value out of that range, right? When you're fighting, a very fast weapon, what they want is for you to be in close range. Let's say you're fighting, once again, like a Morning Star or something, or like a hatchet, whatever other speed crutch moronic weapons somebody's using, they want you in close range. Why? Because they're going to gamble the shit out of you. They're going to spam jabs. They're going to do whatever other bullshit. So you need to stay away from them, right? Because you're playing their game when you're in their face, okay? You are playing their game. And especially when it's a gank fight going on, right? It's much harder to keep everybody on screen when you're face to face with somebody. If they're literally breathing down your neck because you guys are on top of each other, then you are going to get smashed. You need to make sure that you're using the tip of that weapon to hit them, because not only does it give you distance, which means you can use the range of your weapon, you're also able to keep more people on screen. Make sure you're using that range. I don't know. I don't care what you have to do. Play slowly. Dodge away, right? You've used that tactic, right? Where you block, they're blocking, you hit their block, right? And you dodge away. If that's what you need to do, do it. Dodge, spam dodge, whatever you got to do. Just make sure you're constantly trying to make space between you and your enemy if you're using one of those longer weapons. Let's talk about mechanical versus game sense, skill-wise, right? Both skills are important. They are both really important. If you're playing TL, right? Obviously, if you're playing duels, it's like purely mechanical. There's, mind games to be played, right? But that's still all mechanical. It's all mechanical. It's one-on-one. It's different. Playing TO is both. You can't. Okay, I know you go into your duel server, you spend 4,000 hours, right? Oh my god, you're the best duelist ever. And then you go over to TO and you're like, I don't know, like maybe you get like 70 kills, but you die like 30 times. It's like, wow, that's very mid. It's not impressive. You need to have both. Somebody with really good mechanical skill, more people have mechanical skill than have game sense generally. That's just kind of how it is. There are more players who you can go counter back and forth for like 1 minute with, right? Like more players who are mechanically skilled than there are players who can do 100 kills multiple times in a session. Why? Because mechanical skill is easy. It's very straightforward. You can go if you go to a duel server, right? You go to a duel server right now. You spend 2,000 hours there. What are you going to achieve? Probably quite a bit. You're probably going to be pretty good at the game. You go to TO. You spend 2,000 hours. What are you going to be? You might not be that good. You might still just be kind of mid. A lot of players who spend thousands of hours in like team objective, right? Just playing team objective. Not all of them are going to be consistent 100 kill players. They're going to be right? Because you don't just gain game sense as a skill by playing the game. It's not something you gain it. You gain mechanical skill by playing the game, right? If you play the game for 1,000 hours, you're probably going to understand countering. If not, I mean, some players don't. Those are mongoloids. Those are subhumans. They're not something to consider. They're not real people. We're talking about real people here. Real people who learn and understand things. That's why you're here, is because you're somebody who learns and understands things. So when you're playing the game, the most important things to do, like let's say you're like a new player, right? And you're hearing this whole tirade, like what does this mean? What does this mean for me? Because I don't understand. go and get a mechanical base, right? So go to a duel server. The most important thing you can do when you're new to the game is learn the mechanics. You can spend time in TO like me. I was a TO monkey. I didn't join a duel server until I was level 1K, okay? And my mechanics sucked. My mechanics were like kind of just mid. My game sense was always top tier. I'm literally the best with game sense. I've always been the best with game sense. That's what I'm known for. But my mechanics were mid, okay? They were mid as fuck because I never practiced them. You don't get good at what you don't practice. If you do not practice something, you will probably not get good at it. If you are not analyzing your mistakes and learning and trying to get good at something, you will be mid, okay? You will spend 1,000 hours in something and still suck at it, okay? That's not where you want to be. That's not where you're going to be if you follow these steps, okay? If you're newer at the game or just don't understand the game mechanically, go to a duel server, learn the mechanics, understand how the game works from a mechanical standpoint, okay? That's so important, okay? Take a fucking messer. Take a messer, take a heavy mace, right? Two very skill-based weapons. Nobody's winning a fight with the heavy mace if they suck at the game. It is a really good weapon. It did get nerfed. It's still really good, though. You take it, you go learn in a duel server, you take the battle axe, right? Go learn the mechanics of the game, and then you can start to learn game sense. Mechanical skill is the most important thing. You want mechanical skill before you want game sense, because you really excel when you have a good mechanical base. Like, I was really good at the game just with game sense, but like I wasn't nearly the player I am now, right? With good mechanical skill. So go learn that. Go spend. You don't have to spend a lot of time in duel servers. I barely ever go to them. Just go to them, learn mechanics, practice a little bit. You don't got to play a lot. I know it's boring, fucking spamming counters back and forth for like 20 minutes, but it doesn't matter. Learn the mechanics of the game, understand them, right? They're important. A lot of things that you learn in like in a duel server, you're not necessarily going to be able to pick up inside of a TO game, because people don't do the same things in duel servers that they do in TO, right? Because when it's 1v1, there's a lot more things you can do. So like there's a lot of extra things that it's just important to understand. So, you know, learn them, go ahead, just get an idea of how all that stuff works, and then come to TL, right? Game sense. So we talked about mechanical skill, how to develop that, right? You know, you just learn a duel server. It's really easy. It's really straightforward. Anybody can become a good duelist. Literally anybody. Just spend enough hours in Duel Yard. Learn from your mistakes. If you're not a complete bot, you'll probably get good mechanically. It's just the nature of how video games are, right? Like, you know, Shiv's no exception. You just go, you slam you slam your head against enough walls, right? In the duel server against good players, you'll probably become pretty proficient. That's something that's pretty straightforward. Game sense. So, like, how do we develop game sense, all right? Because this is the holy grail, right? Karen, how the fuck do I get a 10.0 KD? How the fuck do I do that? How do I do that? Okay, so number one, obviously, as I said, you don't really need a good mechanical base, but I think it's really important now that I understand the game a lot better. But assuming that you do, assuming that you've done what I said, assuming that your mechanical base is even somewhat good, game sense, okay? So what do we want to do with game sense? So game sense is a combination of a lot of different skills. It's a combination of everything that I've talked about up until this point. So knowing when to retreat, knowing when to heal, how to deal with gank fights, how to deal, you know, like proper positioning, right? How to position with teammates, all that kind of stuff that all goes into game sense. Everything that's not mechanical is game sense. So like when you're fighting somebody like 1v1, right? That's all mechanical. When it's literally anything but that, that's all game sense. It's all game sense. So the easiest way to learn game sense is to start thinking about your games in a different way. So try to play more intelligently. The quickest way to develop game sense in the game is to play how I'm suggesting that you play. You will be the most effective fighter if you combine everything that I talked about. So number one, if you have good mechanical skill, that's wonderful, right? A lot of duelists suck at TO. They just have no game sense. So they run around and think that they can mechanically just beat the game, like just get 100 kills every game. You cannot do that. Spamming counters does not matter for TO. Like, if you can, oh, look, I got the messer. Look, I can counter for 30 fucking minutes back and forth. It doesn't matter. It's a good skill to have, but it's not nearly as important as being able to recognize the fights that you're going to win, the fights that you should take, when to heal, all that kind of stuff. It is just not nearly as important. It's important, but it's not nearly as important. So start thinking about your games as you're running around, as I was talking about, with positioning and all of the things that I've been talking about, right? Like when it comes to, you know, once again, healing, all that kind of stuff, backing away from fights. Start considering that. Start trying to implement that into your gameplay. All of it is Very important. It's a combination. Once again, like outside of mechanical, everything else is game sense. Start trying to heal. All that damage you were taking, heal it now. Okay, I want you to start healing it. Start healing. If you take damage, just go heal it. I know it's good. It's gonna be annoying for a while, right? It's gonna be like, oh my god, I just want to fight. I want to fight. I gotta disengage. No, dude, I want to kill myself. It'd just be stupid. Stop doing that. We're not doing that anymore. Okay, you've learned that's like a dumb thing to do. Stay full health. You're the most effective when you're at full health. Okay. Heal all that damage. Pick the right fights. Pick fights you're going to win, or pick fights you think you can win or contribute to. Don't run in and kill yourself. We're not idiots now, okay? Our IQ has increased from 65 to 85, okay? We couldn't hold a driver's license before. We were too stupid. We were mentally retarded, okay? Now we can hold a driver's license. We're really stupid, but like we have an understanding of things now, okay? So we're going to start running away from fights that we think we're going to lose, right? We're going to start picking the right fights with the right people. We're going to start paying attention to objective, when it's a good time to go in on objective, when it's not a good time. We're not going to kill ourselves, right? We're not going to run in like an idiot, you know, because that contributes nothing. You are literally doing nothing but feeding a meat grinder. You staying alive is the single most important thing. Like any game you've ever played, what's the most important thing you can do, even if you suck at the game? Be alive, be contributing in some way, right? Because when you're running in and you're dying, you are like, I mean, you're basically useless, right? Having a 1.0 KD is like meaningless. Like it's completely meaningless. If you're like 1.0, close to 1.0, you're below 2, or you're like under 1, you are functionally useless on a team outside of like spamming objective. Like if you run in and suicide towards objective, maybe you contribute, but actual fight wise, you are like basically useless, right? At least you want to have above that 1.0, ideally like close to 2, right? Because that means you're contributing more than you're, you know, dying for. If you're going in and you're dying and, you know, you're not doing above that 1.0, you are, once again, as I said, functionally useless. Like you're not really contributing. So if you implement everything I'm talking about, right, you're going to be living longer because you're going to be healing and avoiding fights that you don't want to take, right? You're spacing, you're doing all of these things that I've discussed. You're going to stay alive for longer. You're going to be a more effective fighter, right? Objectives are going to get done a lot easier. Objectives are a lot... Okay, listen to this, right? You're not going to believe this, right? A lot of people don't believe me when I tell them this. When you don't run in like a moron, okay, and there's an extra body to fight, suddenly that 4 versus 5 is now a 5 versus 5, right? Because you are a high IQ individual. You have an 85 IQ, okay? You're like me. Okay, you're smart. You're big brain. You run in, and now it's a 5v5, and now instead of it being a fight where your team is down because you ran in and killed yourself before, now you're beefing up your team. Now you're winning that fight, right? We're paying attention. We're not running off, playing our own game like an idiot. We're being smart. We're playing with our team. All of this stuff, when you start implementing it into your gameplay, by the way, it will become second nature. A lot of the things I'm discussing are stuff that you won't have to think about once you start to understand the game more. So for right now, we're going to practice this. I want you to go into your games. I really want you to listen to this because genuinely, you will become very good at like a lot of different games. Like I am exceptional at Chiv, and I'm also exceptional at a lot of other games that I play just by nature of the things I've discussed, right? Obviously, a lot of it pertains to Chiv, but like, why was one of the first slides mindset? Because mindset's like the most important thing. You know, baby raging is like the number one thing standing between you and success, like getting mad and shit, right? Like blaming others, blaming everything else, right? Not analyzing your mistakes. So number one thing you can do to stay shit is to never learn those things, right? Never learn how to, you know, do whatever that you weren't doing, you know. You get the idea, right? Like, learn from those mistakes. You'll be a better player because of it. That's just, I cannot fixate on it more. It is just so important. So yeah. Okay, this is like a really basic skill. It kind of goes with mechanics, but I do need to touch on it because I do think it's important. Like, just a general overview, mostly for newer players. Proper attack for the situation, right? You have a kick, you have a stab, you have an overhead, you have a slash, right? You have all these attacks, and they all have their own correct uses, right? A lot of players have never discovered that there is more than the slash input. I know. It takes a long time for most players to learn that there are other inputs than slash. It is a grand discovery when you see a level 30. If you see a level 30 doing anything other than a slash, you commend him because it is impressive. It is impressive that some people are able to discover such a technique. Well, jokes aside, like genuinely, start using the right attack for the right situation. Try to use your brain. Let's say we're inside of a fight. You know, it's 5 versus 5, right? Um, we want to avoid hitting our teammates, right? So if you're all grouped up, don't just spam slash. I watch a lot of players do this. They just spam slash. It works because a lot of people are idiots. But if people are actually competent, not only is that not going to work, you're probably going to mash into your teammates and do like 30 plus damage every hit to them. So if you're inside of a fight where there's a lot of people doing a lot of different stuff, try to use stabs and overheads. Try to avoid hitting your teammates because not only does it hurt your teammate, it's not going to hurt the enemy. It's hurting your teammates, only hurting you guys, right? When you're smashing into your teammates. So try to use stabs, right? We want to try to drag them. We want to try to drag them around guard, right? If somebody's blocking, try to hit around their guard with your weapon. Same goes for overheads, especially with weapons like the Messer or the Greatsword, or any other one-hander, right? Because they have a like horizontal overhead, right? Its animation's janky, right? It comes out to the side. Try to hit around people's guards. That is the most important thing to do when you're in these gank fights, because if you're just slashing, the odds of you actually hitting your teammates is like, it's probably about half, right? You're fighting a group of people in a group, right? There's all these people running around. You're very likely to hit a teammate. And then at the same time, slash is the most common input. So if you're throwing out slashes constantly, like your enemy's probably going to read that. A lot of bots in this game, they know how to slash and they know how to counter slashes, because slashes are the most straightforward to counter. So if that's the only attack you're throwing out, not only will it hurt you and all these other things, it's probably not going to land, unless you do some crazy heavy slash with like a maul or a heavy mace, right? They're probably not going to make a mistake. So use the right attack for the right situation. So using the right attack for the right situation does not just come down to regular inputs, right? So like if you're fighting a really good player with a teammate and he's doing a really good job fighting you, right? He's target switching, he's making space, he's doing all the smart things that I've talked about, right? He's going to be hard to kill. So generally, if you have an easy to counter weapon, a weapon that's like relatively predictable, right? It's not super fast, it's not super slow. Maybe you're not good with swing mana, drags, excels, all that kind of stuff. It's a little difficult for you. What is the most important thing you can do and will contribute the most? Jab, jab, jab. A lot of players do not utilize jabs, and it shows. It genuinely shows. Kicks as well, but jabs more importantly. Jabs are your best friend in team fights, and a lot of people do not understand this. It's like, what? Jabbing? What does jabbing do? Well, it fucking interrupts your enemy. A lot of weapons in Civ 2 are not very fast, like unless the player is playing like the XL game where they're trying to hit you like first frame every time. What does that mean? Well, that means that with a jab, you can reaction jab a lot of different weapons, If a player is giving you a hard time, try to reaction jab him. Try to reaction kick him. When you're in neutral, a kick is pretty fast. If you're blocking, obviously it takes a while. Same with a jab. But if you're in neutral with a player, use your jab. A jab is not something they're going to be able to react to unless they have their block up. And if they have their block up, try to use a kick, right? If you could land that kick, you don't whiff it, you probably have enough time to block if they are not blocking, right? Like you don't land the actual guard break, right? And they throw out an attack. You're probably able to throw up your block before their attack will land. So, use the right input for the right situation. But genuinely, I cannot stress this enough. Use jabs. They are the most obnoxious thing in the game. They are lame and annoying. They're very annoying. But that's your job. If you're fighting a really good player and he's countering everything, outside of circle strafing, a jab is the best thing you can do because it's literally just going to interrupt him. It will just interrupt him. He won't be able to do any inputs, Maybe your teammate hits him. Maybe it stops him from being able to counter something, right? Just jab on reaction. Jabs, use them, learn how to use them, right? Obviously, a lot of things that I'm talking about are very general, and I've tried to, talk about stuff that you can immediately implement in your gameplay. Jabbing is something that you can immediately implement in your gameplay, and there's some stuff to learn, right? Because obviously going to Dual Yard and learning how to use them, using them more effectively in combat, that's just something that you're going to have to learn mechanically. When to use them, when's the proper time, all of that kind of stuff, like when's a safe time to use them. Like there's a lot of different little things to pick up there. But the quickest way to learn them outside of just going to Dual Yard is just start using them in your gameplay. because they're kind of foreign. When you're newer at the game, jabs and kicks, jabs once again more so specifically because a lot of bad players will kick. Uh, that's like an unknown input to them. They won't do it. Like if you're relatively good at the game, you know what I'm talking about. Most players don't jab. They won't. Like I mean, the most sensible thing to do when you actually attack somebody is to jab them. Or to kick them, right? Because generally, if it's a slower weapon, you'll probably be able to land the kick, even if it doesn't guard break them, and block before they can actually hit you. And then if you jab and you have a faster weapon, you'll end up jab colliding where you're sent into neutral, right? So, like, I hit this person, he goes to jab me, right? I jab back, we're both in neutral, right? If I were to kick him, that's another way to do it. It's going to kick him away so he won't hit his jab. I mean, alternatively, you could block. Nobody's throwing up a kick after you hit them. That's a smart thing to do, right? If you know somebody's going to jab, throw up your block, right? Have that block because then you're going to be able to riposte really quickly, and some players won't react to it properly. A lot of players auto jab, right? So this is something that goes into, what I'm talking about. So you want to know when to jab and when not to jab because a lot of players don't know how to jab, and you can take advantage of that and really mess with them because jab is super powerful. But on the opposite side, you have players you jab too often, right? Same goes for kicks. They spam kicks because jab into kick is just an obnoxious combo and it works a lot of the time. A lot of players will make the same mistake multiple times in a row with jabs, though, where if you are blocking them consistently, you will be able to probably beat them like pretty quickly because a jab costs stamina and it will also get you a riposte. So if somebody's using jabs like too often where you can start to predict it, start to think about it. If they're jabbing after every time you hit them or randomly or like whatever, throw up a block, right? Anticipate it, right? Obviously they might throw out a kick, but also like a lot of them, if they're jabbing, they're probably going to continue jabbing. There's mind games to this, right? You get what I'm talking about. What I'm describing is not necessarily something that it's going to apply to every situation, but like every situation, it's going to involve something like that, right? Like, somebody's throwing out too many jabs, somebody's not throwing out any jabs, right? You might need to block, you might need to kick, you might need to space. Like, there's a lot to it. There's a lot going on, but you get the general idea, right? We want to use jabs at opportunistic times, make sure we're using them, and also not use them too often because a jab is very punishable, right? There's recovery frames, there's a lot of stamina used. Same goes for kicks, right? Obviously, not every weapon can punish kicks as well as others, right? Like shorter weapons, there is some knockback with a kick. You might whiff if you try to, even if you know they're going to kick, that punish might not come out fast enough, right? There's a lot of examples, but you get the general idea. We want to be using jabs and kicks as often as possible, as well as I said, guard strafing attacks, right? All of these different things make you so oppressive in a gank fight, right? If you're constantly trying to get around somebody's guard, right? You're doing overheads, you're doing stabs, right? And then, as we talked about earlier, we're circle strafing, right? Maybe we're even using heavy slashes. You want to avoid using heavy slashes and slashes as I talked about in a gang fight, but maybe you have the space to do it. You're trying to swing around their guard, right? Because it goes around to the side and it hits them in the back, that kind of thing. Using those jabs, using those kicks, using all that. You're playing unpredictably. And, that is like, oh my God, like you will be super, super oppressive in a gank fight if you use the right attack for the right situation. It is so important. It's like something that, once again, can sort of gloss over and describe the fundamentals of it, kind of like just, you need to know when to do this at this time, all that kind of stuff. But it's like still, I need to fixate on it because, once again, like, if you're good at this game or you know somebody who knows how to use jabs, they are very annoying, right? They're very annoying. They know how to get around your guard. They know how to do all this kind of stuff. It's like, think about your as a player, you have like a toolkit, right? And there's a bunch of different little skills that you can pick up and then like big skills. This is kind of like on the smaller side, right? These aren't going to apply to every single engagement. Not every single engagement you're going to be using jabs and kicks. Ideally, maybe you can, but you're not all the time, right? Those bigger team fights, especially not. But these things, though, when you are in the fights that you need to use them, God, they're powerful, right? So we want to start developing these. So functionally for gameplay, as I've been saying, start using them. Start using jabs, start using kicks. Force yourself to use them. The more often you use them, the better you're going to get at it, right? It's just something that you want to learn because rawly, it's powerful. And the more that you know, the more powerful of a player you are. Okay, so you've listened to me up to this point. You've listened to everything I've had to say. And you went and you developed a good mechanical base, right? You got that epic counter game, all right? You're the GOAT. You can last for like above 60 seconds, right? You know, you can go back and forth. You know, you're cracked. You're cracked out of your mind, all right? And then for game sense, you have a good understanding of the game. You heal your damage, right? You heal all the damage you take. You go over, you help your teammates, right? You circle strafe, you use the right attacks, you do everything that makes you a good player that I've discussed up to this point. How do you have a big game? How do big games happen in the first place, right? Because you obviously, you know, there's a logarithmic graph, right? It's like that graph that goes all the way up, and the higher it goes, the less likely it is to happen. That's how the game is, okay? That graph is a lot larger in the sense that the top point of it gets way higher the better you are at the game, right? If you're really, really good at the game, really, really good, the likelihood of you having a big game is pretty high, right? Like, if you have a really good understanding of everything where it's like, it's not even on you anymore for, you know, you to have a big game, it's kind of on the game in the sense that it's more up to the matchup rather than you, then you're in a good place. So, how these big games happen is that generally, your team needs to be slightly worse than the enemy team, right? And their team needs to be slightly better than yours, but not too good, right? Can't be too good. The reason why it's going to be a big game is because you are very powerful, okay? You are a god of game sense and of mechanical skill. You are a fucking paradigm, okay? And you are going to make the difference in that match. These matches are not super common. They're going to happen on really specific maps generally. Like, your most common maps are going to be like, we'll just use Fallmire for example, right? Fallmire is a pretty good example of a map. Same with Dark Forest, right? Dark Forest Attack really specifically, where you can have massive games. If those games extend to the very end, right? Like, you play the game, and what I'm talking about happens where your team's slightly worse, you're making the difference, and their team is slightly better, right? It's lasting to the last minute each time. You can't have people cheesing objectives, right? A lot of people are going to cheese objectives, right? You're on Fallmire, you're having fun, and then some nerd runs behind and just destroys all of the, you know, the prisoner cards. It's like, okay, wow, that was wonderful. All the momentum of this fun match is taken away because you want a cheese objective. That's going to happen sometimes. You can't do anything about that. That's just how it is, right? But assuming that doesn't happen, and everything else I talked about is going on, maximize your lifetime. If you see, okay, I know your heart's beating, okay, you see this game like, oh, this game is so cracked, bro, I'm doing so well. Do not let it get to your head. Do not go crazy, because the worst thing you can do is spurg out and, you know, have your heart beating and trying to set a new record, and then just end up throwing, in the sense that, like, you get too aggressive, you're so close to 100 kills, you're close to 110, 120, 130, 140 kills. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're the god himself, okay? Don't let it get to your head. When you start to spurg out is when you start to kind of fuck yourself, okay? Think about it like this. When you're playing in one of these matches, a good way to kind of think about it, ideally you're going deathless, right? Obviously that's not going to happen every time. It's not realistic. Nobody's going to be able to do that consistently. I mean, even me, who's done it like more times than anybody else, it's like you're not going to be able to do that consistently. Why? Because, as I talked about, the game is unpredictable. You can heal all damage and still get hit by a Danax and like a Warbow at the same time, and it will insta-kill you. You will be insta-killed by that, and it can happen off-screen, right? So you can't prevent everything, but, you know, assuming that you're lucky and you're doing everything right, these games will come to you. If you play really, really well, right, you're playing pubs, even standalones, these things can kind of occur, even in better games. It's a lot harder to do well in those games, right, because everybody has really good mechanical skill. If you have really good strategy, right, and, you know, especially if you're rocking like a team of like 4 people, you guys might be able to put out some pretty crazy numbers, right? But even then, it's still really difficult, right? Like, when all the good players are together, right, all the GOATs, it's difficult. But going back to it, a good way to kind of think about your games in terms of potential, right? Like, you're playing a game, you're like, maybe I could have done better. Look at your death count, okay? If you have, like, good mechanical skill in a game that was kind of easy, you're going to be getting like maybe like 80, 90 kills kind of thing, but then you might have like 20, 30 deaths. Think about it like this, right? So let's say you're having one of those games, because that's like a lot of people who have really good games generally. Like if they have a good game, they're going to have like maybe really good mechanical skill, in kind of just like good game sense, but not really good game sense. So they're kind of going to have those kinds of scores. Those are the most common source of like 100 kill games. Um, think about it like this: like the amount of times that you died, right? The amount of times you were staring at that respawn screen is times that you could have spent in the game like killing people, right? Because just simply put, right, like that's wasted time. When you go, maybe you get like 5 kills in a single heavy slash and you die for it. Like maybe it's like a trade, right, that you're willing to take. That's fine. I mean, you know, obviously you make your own decisions when you're playing that are most beneficial to you. But if you're just running around and you're playing, just heal. Like pay attention. Don't let it get to your head. Focus on the game. Just focus. If you see that kill number going up, you see this is one of those crazy games. Just relax. Don't let yourself get killed. Don't get too aggressive, right? Even if you think you're gonna eviscerate them, don't do that, because when you do that to yourself, when you play with poor strategy and you play like a moron, you're cucking yourself out of what would have been an even better match, right? And now at the end of the game, you're gonna be sitting and you're like, oh man, that game was awesome, but it could have been better, right? And that will eat at you, and you can't let it eat at you, right? Because it's very easy to prevent something like that. If that game is gonna be super big and you could have been even bigger, the only thing stopping you was you, right? If you're the only reason that you really couldn't have gotten that 120, 130 kills, right, then you need to chill out. You need to chill out when these games come up. Eventually, you know, maybe you're goated enough, right, where it's like they happen commonly, right, you know, and you're more relaxed, right, because they happen so commonly, right. You're not even taking screenshots of them. They're just, you know, these games they're difficult. They're really difficult, right? No, it's not like they're easy, but they happen enough where you're more relaxed, right? When it's your first time getting 100 kills, 90 kills, 80 kills, 70, you know, you get the idea, right? When you get one of those big games, 200 takedowns, 150 takedowns, it's cracked, right? It's like, oh man, that's awesome. It's obviously going to be a little bit easier to focus in those games when it's happened a couple times, but even then, you just need to kind of fixate on what I've been talking about when they do start to happen, and you have a better understanding of the game. Just relax. Just relax. Don't spurg out. Don't tunnel vision yourself trying to get some numbers, right? Just keep playing how you were playing. The reason why you're so good is because you are playing super well. And then when the game starts to look really up in your favor and you start playing like a moron because you get excited, like that's where it's going to suck, right? Because, you know, then 80% of the potential is reached, but the 20%, right, that could have been reached is not being reached because you went full 8 mode. You went gorilla mode, okay? You're a gorilla at the fucking zoo, and a huge head of lettuce was just served to you, okay? A big head of lettuce. And you're gorillas, you start pounding your chest and you shove the lettuce in your face. And you get too excited. And you could have gotten like 3 lettuces. You could have gotten 3 heads of lettuce if you didn't spurg out like that. But instead you only got the one because you got too excited. You didn't even notice the zookeeper holding 3, but you just saw the one. You're like, nom, 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 nom. And you shove it in your face. And then that's it. And the zookeeper walks back in and you only get that 1 head of lettuce. Don't do that. Relax in these games, relax, focus, right? This goes for any game as well, by the way. This is the same sort of thing, right? You're playing fucking Rivals, Overwatch, whatever other game, right? It's like, that's how you're going to have these big games, is you're the one making the difference. Your team's slightly worse, their team's slightly better, right? You just need to keep calm and relax, all right? Keep calm, carry on, right? Just chill. The thing to also keep in mind is teammates are your enemy, okay? In a lot of these games, so this is just something that's kind of extra that I want to throw in here. Be careful of teammates. Teammates, you can't avoid them, obviously, like you want to play around them, but understand, like, a lot of people are very stupid. They don't have awareness, right? They're programmed, all right? If they were a robot, you wouldn't know. You literally wouldn't know, okay? Because, like, a fucking robot developed by, like, I don't know, fucking, like, Elon Musk, man, is gonna have the same intelligence as your, like, typical teammate, alright? It's gonna have, like, 60 IQ. It's gonna bump into fucking walls. It's gonna walk into walls because it's stupid, okay? That's your typical teammate. Your typical teammate is going to do 800 fucking thousand team damage per game, okay? And it's hard not to spurg out and, like, I don't know, like, feed them to a giant sandworm, okay? It's hard to do that, but you just gotta, like, not do that. When it comes to your teammates, pay attention to how much team damage you're taking, because team damage is something that's like, it's a slow killer when you're in these big fights, you're having these big games. Team damage is going to do, like, you've probably had this happen where you're running back to the ammo box, you think you took a bunch of damage, and you took like 1 hit of, like, I don't know, like a war axe, you took 62 damage, you're a knight, and then, like, you know, you're like 10 HP, and then most of it heals up, and now you're at like 100, because all of that was team damage, right? Pay attention to how much team damage you're taking, and you need to heal team damage. Like, you genuinely need to heal it. It comes back over time, but just heal team damage. Team damage is going to happen, like, all the time, and, like, you just need to be vigilant of it, like regular damage. even if you know it's team damage, it's going to heal it, just heal it. You know, take the opportunity to get that bandage, right? Because obviously when you're all messed up, right, archers are going to target you. So closing, all right, because that was a lot of information. I will be shocked if anybody made it this far. Your head is probably it's hurting because there's so much knowledge that's been injected into your massive brain. Okay, your brain is pulsating with all of the different nodes of knowledge that are now inside of it. All right, what you need to understand is that anybody can be good, even if you're ass, even if you've been ass, you're brand new, whatever. Follow the steps I laid out here, you'll be good. There is a lot of stuff, right, in this video, and there's a lot more that I could talk about, but these are kind of the most important bits that I think are relevant, right? That's why they're put in this video. So, you know, if you have any questions, comment them, ask me. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if you didn't like it, because this, you know, if you have a different opinion, right, let me know. If you hate me because I'm evil, right, because I'm very evil, you know, comment that. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. I'm going to open up a small Discord. It's going to be dead for right now, but it's just going to have an announcements channel that will ping you for new uploads, because I'm going to be making a lot more stuff in the coming weeks, coming months, whatever. So yeah, join that if you want.